The mining colony of Velen, 9 sprawled across the barren expanse of a distant moon, a place of relentless labor and suffocating hardship. Gabriel Kane, a weathered mechanic with a quiet strength, had carved out a life here with his son, Elias. The days were long and grueling, but the evenings, when Gabriel shared stories with Elias under the artificial lights of their cramped quarters, were moments of peace that made the struggle worthwhile. Elias, with his boundless curiosity and innocent dreams, was Gabriel's reason for enduring. The boy often asked about the stars, wondering if they held worlds free of the colony's oppressive regime. Gabriel would smile wistfully, his heart heavy with unspoken truths. He knew the galaxy was far from kind, dominated by powerful forces like the Syndicate, a ruthless criminal empire that thrived on exploitation and fear. One fateful evening, Gabriel's quiet life shattered. The Syndicate, led by the infamous Darcola, had set its sights on Velen 9. Resistance among the miners had reached a boiling point, and Darcola's enforcers descended upon the colony to make an example of its inhabitants. The attack came without warning. Syndicate dropships roared through the ashen skies, unloading squads of heavily armed enforcers. Gabriel was in the workshop when the first explosions rocked the colony. Alarms blared and panic spread like wildfire. He sprinted toward his quarters, his mind consumed with one thought: Elias. Bursting through the door, Gabriel found Elias huddled in a corner, clutching the small wooden carving of a starship Gabriel had made for him. The boy's eyes were wide with fear, but bright with trust in his father. "Stay close to me," Gabriel urged, his voice steady despite the chaos outside. As they navigated the crumbling colony, the air filled with smoke and screams, Gabriel's heart pounded. The Syndicate enforcers showed no mercy, their plasma rifles cutting down anyone in their path. Gabriel and Elias weaved through alleys, avoiding the patrols, but escape seemed impossible. Near the colony's edge, their path was blocked by a towering Syndicate lieutenant clad in dark armor, his face obscured by a menacing visor. He raised his weapon, a cold smile evident in his tone. "No one escapes the Syndicate," he declared. Gabriel stood protectively in front of Elias, his fists clenched. "You've taken everything from us. Leave my son alone," he shouted, his voice breaking with desperation. The enforcer laughed, a cruel sound that echoed in the chaos. "The Syndicate doesn't negotiate with rebels." Before Gabriel could react, the lieutenant fired. The bolt of energy streaked toward them, and Gabriel shielded Elias with his body. But the shot was not aimed at Gabriel. It struck Elias, who crumpled to the ground, the light fading from his eyes before Gabriel could even comprehend what had happened. Time seemed to stop. Gabriel dropped to his knees, cradling Elias's lifeless body, his cries of anguish drowning in the roar of destruction around him. The lieutenant moved on, his laughter fading into the distance, leaving Gabriel alone with his grief. Hours passed, or perhaps it was only moments. Gabriel couldn't tell. He remained by Elias's side until a searing heat surrounded him. He looked up to see the ground splitting beneath him, flames licking at the edges of the fracture. From the depths emerged a figure wreathed in fire, its skeletal visage emanating both terror and power. "I am the spirit of vengeance," the entity intoned, its voice a guttural growl that resonated in Gabriel's very soul. "You have suffered a loss no man should endure. I offer you the power to exact justice." Gabriel hesitated, his grief momentarily eclipsed by the weight of the offer. "Justice," he asked, his voice raw, "or vengeance?" "They are often one and the same," the spirit replied, extending a fiery hand. "Accept my gift, and you shall have the means to punish those who have wronged you." With nothing left to lose, Gabriel grasped the spirit's hand. Agony coursed through his body as hellfire consumed him, transforming him into something more than human. His flesh burned away, replaced by a skeletal form engulfed in flames. His eyes blazed with an unholy light, and when he spoke, his voice was a blend of his own and the spirit's. "I am the Ghost Rider," he declared, the pain giving way to a singular purpose. The spirit's power came with knowledge. Gabriel saw visions of Darcola, the architect of the Syndicate's terror and the vast network of crime he controlled. He understood that Elias's death was part of a larger, systematic cruelty, and that only by dismantling the Syndicate could he find peace. Gabriel tested his newfound abilities, summoning a fiery motorcycle that roared to life with hellfire. He wielded chains that burned with unquenchable flames, their weightless strength a reflection of his wrath. The penance stare, a power that forces enemies to relive their sins, pulsed within him, waiting to be unleashed. As the first light of dawn broke over the ruined colony, Gabriel mounted his infernal steed. The air crackled with heat as he accelerated, leaving behind the ashes of his past. His path was clear. He would hunt down Darcola and every last member of the Syndicate. And so began the journey of the Ghost Rider, a man driven by sorrow and empowered by vengeance, riding into the cosmos to deliver fiery retribution to those who dared to destroy his world. The trail of destruction left by the Syndicate was a dark thread weaving through the galaxy, and Gabriel Kane followed it relentlessly. Now bound to the spirit of vengeance, he had become the Ghost Rider, a figure of unrelenting fury, wielding powers fueled by hellfire. His quarry was Darcola, the Syndicate leader responsible for the death of his son, Elias. The name alone ignited Gabriel's rage, stoking the flames of vengeance within him. Darcola's Syndicate was vast, spanning dozens of star systems, and its influence ran deep. Syndicate bases were hidden in asteroid belts, abandoned starships, and distant moons. Gabriel's search began at the fringes, targeting smaller outposts where the Syndicate's grip was less secure. These places became the proving ground for his new powers. His first stop was Dryon Station, a decrepit mining hub repurposed as a smuggling depot. The air was thick with the stench of fuel and desperation. Syndicate enforcers patrolled the station's corridors, their arrogance born from years of unchecked power. Gabriel's fiery motorcycle roared through the main gate, its hellfire tires melting the reinforced doors. Enforcers scrambled, shouting orders and reaching for weapons. Gabriel dismounted, his skeletal figure wreathed in flames casting long, flickering shadows. The first wave of attackers charged, plasma rifles blazing. Gabriel raised his flaming chains, which snapped through the air like living serpents. They wrapped around one enforcer, the hellfire consuming him in an instant. Another aimed a blaster, but Gabriel's penance stare froze him in place. The man dropped to his knees, screaming as the weight of his sins overwhelmed him. Within minutes, the station was silent, save for the crackle of dying flames. Gabriel approached a trembling informant, a wiry man with cybernetic implants. "Where is Darcola?" Gabriel growled, his voice a terrifying blend of his own and the spirit's. I don't know," the man stammered. "He moves constantly, but there's a command base on Raxor for. You'll find answers there." Gabriel left the station in ruins, a fiery sigil burned into its walls, a warning to all who served the Syndicate. Word of the Ghost Rider began to spread, whispered in fear across backwater taverns and shadowy marketplaces. Meanwhile, Darcola, ever calculating, took notice. From the bridge of his flagship, the Eclipser, the cyborg overlord reviewed reports of this new threat. His cybernetic body gleamed under the dim light, his mechanical eye scanning through data streams. "A flaming skeleton destroying my outposts," he mused aloud, his tone laced with contempt. "Superstition and fear. But fear can be a useful tool or a dangerous liability." Darcola summoned his lieutenant, Kale Droz, a battle-hardened commander known for his ruthlessness. "Prepare the Void Sentinels," Darcola ordered. "If this Ghost Rider wants a war, we'll give him one." Unaware of the trap being set, Gabriel pressed on. Each battle honed his abilities and revealed the extent of his connection to the spirit of vengeance. His motorcycle could leap across vast distances, powered by infernal energy. His chains could split through steel, and his penance stare grew stronger with each use. Yet, the spirit's presence was not without cost. Gabriel felt its influence tugging at his humanity, urging him to embrace his role as judge, jury, and executioner. The journey to Raxurf was perilous. Syndicate ships patrolled the sector, forcing Gabriel to navigate asteroid fields and evade ambushes. Upon reaching the planet, he found a command base heavily fortified, surrounded by an energy shield and guarded by advanced drones. Gabriel observed the base from a ridge, his flaming skull reflecting in the black visor of his helmet. "This is it," he murmured. "Time to send Darcola a message he won't forget." Charging down the ridge, Gabriel unleashed a hellfire blast that shattered the energy shield. Syndicate forces scrambled as his motorcycle smashed through the gates, leaving trails of fire in its wake. Gabriel dismounted and faced a squad of Void Sentinels, cybernetic soldiers designed to counter supernatural threats. The Sentinels advanced with precision, their plasma weapons synchronized. Gabriel swung his chains, but the Sentinels adapted quickly, deflecting the strikes with energy shields. One soldier landed a blow, sending Gabriel sprawling. The spirit's voice echoed in his mind. "You are more than flesh and flame. Use the fire within." Gabriel rose, flames intensifying around him. He thrust his hands forward, unleashing a torrent of hellfire that engulfed the Sentinels. Their armor melted, their circuits overloaded, and they collapsed in heaps of smoldering metal. Inside the command center, Gabriel found a high-ranking Syndicate officer cowering behind a console. "Darcola isn't here," the man cried. He's on Zarathus, in the Eclipser's main hub." Before Gabriel could press further, alarms blared. Reinforcements were inbound. Gabriel ignited his motorcycle, the flames roaring as he sped through the collapsing base. Explosions erupted behind him as he rode into the starry void, leaving another burning ruin in his wake. On board the Eclipser, Darcola listened to the report with a mixture of irritation and intrigue. "He's persistent, I'll give him that," Darcola remarked. "But persistence without strategy is just foolishness." The cyborg activated a holographic map, pinpointing Zarathus, his final bastion. "Let him come," Darcola said with a sinister smile. "We'll see if this Ghost Rider can handle the full might of the Syndicate." As Gabriel hurtled towards Zarathus, his resolve hardened. He knew the path ahead would test him in ways he couldn't yet imagine, but the image of Elias's lifeless form was etched into his soul. No force in the galaxy could deter him now. The Ghost Rider had awakened, and the galaxy would burn with his vengeance. The vast, desolate plains of Zarathus stretched out beneath a crimson sky, its alien atmosphere swirling with toxic winds. This was Darcola's stronghold, a sprawling, fortress-like city bristling with weapons and guarded by legions of Syndicate forces. From the command tower's flagship, the Eclipser, Darcola watched as the Ghost Rider's fiery motorcycle approached, leaving a trail of molten rock in its wake. "Open the outer defenses," Darcola commanded his officers. "Let him come closer. I want to see if the legend is as formidable as the reality." Gabriel Kane, now fully embraced by the spirit of vengeance, rode headlong into the trap. Flames licked at his skeletal form, and his chains coiled like living serpents around his torso. His every movement was driven by a singular purpose: to exact justice for his son and destroy the Syndicate. As he neared the city's perimeter, massive energy cannons sprang to life, unleashing beams of concentrated plasma. Gabriel swerved, his infernal reflexes allowing him to evade the blasts. He leaped from his motorcycle mid-motion, landing atop one of the turrets. With a sweep of his hellfire chains, he dismantled the weapon, sending shards of metal raining down. Syndicate soldiers swarmed him, their weapons blazing. Gabriel raised his hands, conjuring a wall of hellfire that incinerated the first wave. The second wave was met with the penance stare. Those who dared meet his gaze were reduced to husks, their sins manifesting as unbearable torment. Darcola observed the carnage with a mix of awe and irritation. "He's impressive," he admitted, "but even fire has its limits." Deploy the hunter mechs. From hidden hangars, towering mechanical constructs emerged, their sleek designs reminiscent of predatory beasts. Each was armed with energy blades and reinforced by plasma shields. Gabriel faced them with grim determination, his fiery chains illuminating the battlefield. The first mech lunged, its blades slicing through the air. Gabriel sidestepped and countered with a hellfire strike, but the mech's shield absorbed the blow. It retaliated, slamming Gabriel into the ground. The spirit's voice echoed in his mind. "You are not bound by the laws of the living. Let the flames guide you," summoning the full power of the spirit. Gabriel erupted in a burst of energy, his flames burning brighter than ever. He vaulted onto the nearest mech, his chains piercing its core. The construct exploded in a blaze of molten metal. Using the debris as weapons, Gabriel dismantled the remaining mechs with brutal efficiency. The battlefield fell silent as Gabriel advanced toward the city's gates, which stood reinforced with layers of titanium. He raised his chains and struck, the hellfire melting through the barriers. The gates crumbled, revealing the inner sanctum of Zarathus. Inside, Darcola awaited him in a cavernous throne room. The cyborg overlord's mechanical body gleamed with menace, and his voice resonated with synthetic authority. "So, the Ghost Rider finally graces me with his presence," Darcola said, rising from his throne. "You've been a thorn in my side long enough." Gabriel stepped forward, his flames casting ominous shadows across the walls. "You killed my son," he growled, his voice a blend of rage and sorrow. "You'll pay for every life you've taken." Darcola smirked, activating a control panel embedded in his arm. The room came alive with automated defenses, turrets, laser grids, and robotic guards. "You think vengeance is a weapon?" Darcola sneered. "It's a weakness, and I'll exploit it." The ensuing battle was a clash of fire and steel. Gabriel moved with supernatural agility, his chains slicing through the defenses. Darcola's cybernetic enhancements allowed him to match Gabriel's speed, his plasma blades deflecting the Ghost Rider's attacks. "You're nothing but a pawn of the spirit," Darcola taunted, dodging a hellfire blast. "It controls you as surely as I control this empire." "You're wrong," Gabriel retorted, his flames surging. "The spirit fuels me, but my will is my own." The fight escalated, each combatant pushing the other to their limits. Gabriel's chains wrapped around Darcola's arm, severing it in a shower of sparks. The cyborg retaliated with a plasma strike, scorching Gabriel's ribs. As the battle raged, Gabriel realized that brute force alone wouldn't defeat Darcola. The spirit whispered a revelation. Justice is not destruction. It is balance. Look within. Drawing on this newfound understanding, Gabriel unleashed the full power of the penance stare. Darcola froze, his cybernetic eye flickering as the weight of his atrocities bore down on him. Images of the countless lives he destroyed flooded his mind, each one a searing indictment of his sins. "No!" Darcola roared, his voice cracking. "I am above judgment." But there was no escape. The penance stare consumed him, leaving him a broken shell. His once imposing figure crumpled to the floor, his mechanical components sparking and failing. With Darcola defeated, the spirit's flames began to recede, leaving Gabriel standing amidst the ruins of the throne room. He looked down at his skeletal hands, the fire within him flickering with uncertainty. The Syndicate was leaderless, but his vengeance had come at a cost. As he mounted his motorcycle, Gabriel gazed at the distant stars. The galaxy would remember the Ghost Rider not as a harbinger of doom, but as an agent of cosmic justice. Yet, his journey was far from over. The spirit of vengeance remained bound to him, and there were still sins to punish, evils to confront, and a balance to restore. The flames roared to life once more as Gabriel sped into the darkness, a solitary figure carrying the burden of vengeance and the hope of redemption.